I'm Agent Ghost and welcome to the Archives, and I have a question for you today. Do you like to do things like this?
Rogue agent neutralized.
And this?
Hostiles detected. Incoming hostiles detected. Now detecting contaminated gear.
Welcome back. And for all you beautiful people that said no, you're not interested, take care, be safe, have a wonderful rest of your day/night. And for all you beautiful that say yes and you are interested in this build, well, enjoy. But before we get down to the build breakdown, I just want to give a shout out to the person that I originally got this build from. When I was first starting out in Division, this was the first and really only Dark Zone build I've used and felt very comfortable with and enjoy. So I will leave a link down to the original video where I discovered this build down in the description below. But thank you, and a big shout out to Kamikaze Von Doom for showing me so much about this game. Very much appreciated, and this build's just still amazing after when I first discovered it many months ago. All right, without further ado, let's go down to the build breakdown. Enjoy. Starting things off with the specialization, I'm using the Technician specialization for the plus 50% pulse resistance it provides, which is very important with us being 100% pulse resistant throughout this build, which is one of the key features why I love this build. Now, that's it for the specialization. If there's any others that give you 50% pulse resistance, please use those just as a friendly tip. In general, you want to set your weapon bonus for extra damage in your specialization to have as much damage as possible. I don't think it's as important though for PvE, so if you don't do it, it's not a big deal. But for PvP, to give yourself as much damage output as possible, just a friendly reminder, I would do that for any type of Dark Zone or PvP content you like to do. Moving on to the weapons, I am currently using the exotic St. Elmo's engine assault rifle, one of my favorite assault rifles in the entire game. It is just crazy for all the stats it has. That 70 magazine, for example, is just nuts on an assault rifle. Now, there are the core attributes if you want to pause, copy, and paste. I also have mine expertise 6, so plus 6% weapon damage. And then the regular attribute, I have plus 9% damage targets out of cover, which is the highest I've re-rolled it for damage targets out of cover, which is the highest multiplicative regular attribute in the entire game currently. Now, I'm mainly using the St. Elmo's engine for the talent Actum Est, and what that does is shooting an enemy with this weapon will give 1 stack. At 100 stacks, the next magazine will be 100% filled with shock ammo. Now, if I switch to PvP stats, instead of that 100% filled with shock ammo, it goes to 50% filled with shock ammo. So the magazine is 35 or 70. So in general, in PvE settings, you would have 70 shock ammo, but once you are in a PvP zone, they recently changed it to where it's 35 bullets in your magazine for shock ammo is filled. But what I generally like to do is fill it up with the shock ammo. Just a second. Let me set up the shooting range. Missed that with a shotgun. Good shot, Ghost. Alright. What I generally like to do is shoot the enemy to fill, or shoot PvE enemies in the Dark Zone, like the AI you're facing at anywhere, and get them to get a full magazine of shock ammo. So let me reload, because I got it, and how you can tell is in my UI there is that magazine with lightning bolts shooting out of it. That's how you can gauge in real time it filling up. But what I like to do is get shock ammo, and then I will switch to my secondary, whatever it might be. I like to use the shotgun because it's very ammo efficient and can chunk enemies, and then use that in general until there's like a rogue agent or something like that, like a actual person trying to mess with me. Then I will switch to my St. Elmo's, use the 35 shock ammo to stun them, and just basically, even once I'm gone through the 35 magazine, keep unloading in them until you have to reload. Then I switch to my shotgun and finish them off with the rest of the bullets I have with my shotgun. And if I don't finish them off by then I will get in cover or regroup and reload my weapons and then set up for another fight. But generally that can work out to be a devastating combo to take out at least one person if you're dealing with a rogue agent. Now for my secondary that I'm using, moving on from the St. Elmo's assault rifle, I'm using the custom M870 as the shotgun I love. I love using this shotgun. It's my favorite non-exotic shotgun in the entire game, and if you have the blueprint from farming control points, you can craft it at any crafting station. Now, once again, I have damage targets out of cover in the regular attribute, and I have the talent rolled Optimist on it, which weapon damage is increased by 3% for every 10% missing ammo from the magazine. So every time you shoot a shotgun bullet, it's at 263,000, as you see, 274,000, 285,000, 295,000, and then the last bullet is 278 is what you saw there, but it just gradually gets stronger each time you shoot a shotgun pellet, is why I love having Optimist on it. There are the mods if you want to pause, you can, and are interested, you can copy and paste. Now moving on to the pistol I'm using the Orbit pistol. It is a Dark Zone exclusive. A lot of Dark Zone exclusives are in this build, so the only way you can obtain Dark Zone exclusives is obviously in the Dark Zone vendors if they're selling them, name caches, and conflict caches. So that's the only way to obtain this pistol if you want. And in the regular attribute, again, I have damage targets out of cover, and it comes because it's the talent it comes with is Perfect Finisher, which swapping from this weapon within 10 seconds of killing an enemy grants plus 35% crit hit chance and plus 40% crit hit damage for 15 seconds. There are the mods if you want to pause, copy, and paste. Now, the only thing I want to make note of, if you don't have an Orbit, don't worry or stress too much about it. With whatever pistol you do like to use, you can get a variant, or if you can change the talent, I would just recommend changing it to Finisher. It won't be perfect finisher, so it might not be as potent, but finisher is great if you, like, for example, I switched to it, finish off the named enemy, and then you can see I have 326,000 now, 339, 352, 365, 375 for my shots. It basically goes up 100,000 damage for my shotgun and helps with the St. Elmo's as well. So that's why I like using it. If there's like a red named enemy in the dark zone that I can pick off real quick to get that extra 15 seconds of damage bonus, it really helps out. Even in a fight with the rogue agent, if you see one, you can do that. Now that's it for the weapons. Now moving on to the gear, I'm using the Catharsis exotic mask for the insane survivability and some extra damage it provides. In the core attribute, I have 170,000 armor. In the regular attribute, it comes with plus 20% incoming repairs, and it will always come with the stat incoming repairs and armor regen, but I have plus 20% incoming repairs with it and 4,925% armor regen, as well as a maxed out plus 20% incoming repairs mod. You can throw in whatever mod you want or might be missing stat wise, but a general rule of thumb with any Catharsis mask is the talent vicious cycle for the healing portion of that is affected by incoming repairs, not repair skills. So just throw in a maxed out incoming repairs mod, and then boom, you just have that much more survivability with the healing effect it provides. And what vicious cycle does is taking damage builds, it stacks to a cap of 30. Each stack grants plus 1% weapon damage, so you can get plus 30% weapon damage, which is crazy and very helpful. Taking damage at max stacks triggers a purge, removing all stacks and status effects, which is very handy, and then dropping a healing cloud, which restores 5% of max armor for 10 seconds to all allies in the cloud. So that's the big part of the survivability that this provides, and it gives us extra damage. So huge help in that regard. Now, moving on to the brand set bonus I'm using the brand Y'all gear, and again, this is another Dark Zone exclusive, so only named caches, conflict caches, Dark Zone, and Dark Zone vendors if they're selling it. If you farm control points, you can get the blueprints, I know for a matter of fact, for the chest, holster, and hands, so you can craft them, but you still need the materials to craft it, which you have to break down or dismantle Y'all gear in order to do that. So it is a challenging gear set to get, but once you get it and put this build together, you can have a lot of fun. Now, in for the brand set bonus, when you have one Y'all gear equipped, it gives you plus 10% hazard protection. 2 pieces of Y'all gear equipped, it gives plus 5% weapon damage, and once you have 3, you get that plus 40% pulse resistance, which matches perfectly with the plus 50% we get with technician specialization. So 90% pulse resistance. I don't have it equipped just yet. Here, let me just, there we go. There we go. Now in my backpack, we'll get into that in just a sec, I have plus 10%, so it adds up to 100% pulse resistance. So anyone using Heartbreaker or Pulse builds, you're 100% resistant to, and they won't be able to take advantage of seeing you through walls or extra damage if they're using like Kingbreaker for Flatline or anything like that, so, which is just amazing and great. You can sneak up on people if you act accordingly. Now in the core attribute, I have 146,000 armor on my chest piece. In the regular attributes, I have 3,825 armor regen, plus 12% crit hit damage, and a plus 12% crit hit damage mod. You want to aim for 50% crit hit chance though, so if you're not at or close to, like, you can be like 47, 48% crit hit chance, but aim for 50% and then worry about putting crit hit damage in the build. Now moving on from, also before I forget, I almost forgot, have the talent rolled on mine, Unbreakable. When you're and what that does is when your armor is depleted, repair 95% of your armor every 60 seconds. So it's just a little extra security for when your armor breaks, you get that. But again, I'll activate PvP. In PvP, it's not 95%, it's 50%. So you only get 50% of your armor back. So please keep that in mind when you're in the Dark Zone or conflict. Now, moving on to the Y'all gear holster, I have 139,000 armor, 4,925 armor regen, and a plus 5% crit hit chance in the regular attribute. Now moving on to the Y'all gloves, I have 111,000 armor in the core attribute, and the regular attribute 49,025 armor regen, and plus 5% crit hit chance. Now, moving on to the knee guards, I'm using the Emperor knee guards. And once again, just like the Y'all gear in the Orbit, it is a Dark Zone exclusive, so you need to do everything I've said before in order to get these. In the core attribute, it gives us plus 20% skill duration, which is good for our skills, but not like must-haves. Now in the core attribute, I have 170,000 armor rolled. In the regular attribute, this is why these are so good though. The Emperor's Guard is because in the regular attribute, you're always given armor regen, and it gives us plus 1% armor regen, which really helps with the rest of our armor regen in the build. And then I have a plus 6% crit hit chance in the secondary regular attribute. You can also get one with armor regen. That is a god roll for a lot of people, for a lot of builds, but the only one I have is plus 6% crit hit chance, which still works really nicely in this build. Now, moving on to the backpack, I am using the Bellstone Armory backpack because of the brand set bonus of plus 1% armor regen. Again, that stacks nicely with the Emperor's Knee Guards and all the armor regen we have rolled throughout the build. I have 132,000 armor in the core attribute. In the regular attribute, again, 3,825 armor regen, plus 5.3% crit hit chance, and then there is my plus 10% pulse resistance mod. We'll go over that in just a sec, but I want to go over the talent as well. So the talent I've rolled on my Bellstone Armory backpack is Adrenaline Rush, which whenever you are within 10 meters of an enemy, you gain plus 20% bonus armor for 5 seconds. Stacks up to 3 times. The cooldown is 5 seconds. So you can theoretically, as long as people don't shoot through your bonus armor and there's 3 enemies, you get plus 60% bonus armor. Again, that much survivability, which is just nuts. This build has a lot of damage, a decent amount of damage for the Dark Zone, a lot of survivability, which is king in the Dark Zone, and 100% pulse resistance, again because of that plus 10% pulse resistance mod. Now if you don't have a maxed out one, I get it. This is probably the longest mod it took me to ever farm for in the game. So if you don't have a plus 10% pulse resistance, don't worry. Shoot for 9.7% pulse resistance minimum, because that will give you 97% pulse resistance, which you will still show up, but it's like a second. So say if people send out a pulse or see you through the wall, they will see you for just a second, then you'll be disappear and have resistance towards it. So it can still be just as effective as 100%, because you can confuse people since they're like, what happened? Why was somebody there and it's not there for at least a moment? But if you do have 100%, then they just won't ever see you, and you can use that tactically throughout the Dark Zone to get a jump on some people, because it lets you know when people go rogue. So very handy for that. Now that is it for all the gear. Now we're going over the skills, and then we'll go over the final stats and gameplay footage. So for my first skill, I'm using the decoy. It's pretty self-explanatory. I mainly use it for the PvE parts of the Dark Zone where you're fighting enemies, just to keep aggro off you or keep the enemy attention off you, and it's just mitigate, or they're not shooting at you, so you're not taking as much damage. It's pretty self-explanatory. There are the mods if you want to pause, copy, and paste. And then for the secondary skill I have is the Defender Drone, which basically it says right there, damage reduction 26.2%, so it can mitigate or reduce the damage you take by 26.2%. There are the mods if you want to pause, copy, and paste, but essentially I just always activate the Defender Drone when I'm in a fight with an actual person, like a rogue agent, to help mitigate damage in the fight, so we're that much more survivability while we try and burn down and kill the rogue agent. Now an alternative that you can use is I'll replace the decoy for the sticky bomb EMP, which again I don't use in the PvP part of the Dark Zone. I will use it in Rogue Agent or PvP, but what you can do is shoot it out like that, and then the explosion there, not only if their skills are up to a tier 3, because mine is a tier 1, and I believe to disrupt enemy abilities you have to be, it's within 3 skill tiers. So if they're skill tier 4 or below, then you can disrupt their abilities, but if they like have a skill build that's tier 6, the EMP will not affect them. But what still is effective is the explosion will stun them for a second, so you can have that much more time to shoot them while they're stunned and disorientated if you hit your shot. To get the EMP sticky, it's been a long time since I got it, but just go over to the Roosevelt Island and set the difficulty. I believe you can set to normal and just complete it. It should say EMP sticky as a reward in the rewards section to the left. That's how I remember you're supposed to get it. So if that is not the case, in editing, I will have a note appear on how to actually do it. But if that note doesn't appear, that means that's how you do it. Anyway, moving on. That's the skills that I use. And for the EMP sticky, those are the mods that I would use. Actually, hang on just a sec. Damage, burn. Okay, I don't have a mod on me currently that would affect it. So yeah, those are the mods I use. Mainly skill haste is the big part. Now let's move on to the stats and then we can get to the final gameplay footage. So under weapon stats, I have 66,000 weapon damage, but we care more about PvP. So I have 26,000 PvP weapon damage when we're in the dark zone, 51.3% crit chance. Again, you want to aim for 50%. And then whatever, once you are close to 50%, you can put in crit hit damage, which I have 89% crit hit damage, 75% headshot damage, damage targets out of cover, 18% health damage. And that's it for weapon stats. Now moving on to offense, I have 21% all weapon damage bonus, 30% assault rifle damage bonus, 15% shotgun damage bonus, and 15% pistol damage bonus. Now we've already gone over the gear, talents, and brand set bonuses, so just moving on to defense, and that's it for the stats. I have 1,682,000 armor. In the bottom left there, it says 1.7 million, but that's the exact number. I would actually shoot for 1.7 to 1.8 million armor is what I would shoot for. And then I have 56,000 armor regen a second, again from all the armor regen that we have, as well as the plus 1% from Bellstone Armory and Emperor's Guard knee pads. So we have tons of armor regen, we have pulse resistance, we have damage. Like, this is very excellent build for the dark zone. It's what I've always used and enjoyed. 33,400 max health, 40,000 incoming repairs, and again 100% pulse resistance. So there you go. That's the stats. This is the build. So please, everyone, take care, be safe, have a wonderful day/night, and yeah, bye.